When he was young and small, we had all the hopes and dreams any parent would have of their child. He was our firstborn, and it was a perfect miracle, fresh from God. Then to have things turn out the way they did, it was difficult to deal with.
He was always a sensitive kid, and he was really creative. He'd kind of surprise you with some of the stuff he'd do.
When Ben was in junior high school, he started having seizure activity. Of course, we took him to doctors, and he ended up going to see a neurologist.
It was actually causing brain damage, the seizures. I remember at one point he was taking algebra. He started to work on a problem, but by the time he got to the end of the problem, he couldn't remember the first part of the problem. So even though he would try to do certain things were out of his grasp. He couldn't succeed. But he wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia until he was in his early 20s. That's when we really began to lose him. There were times when Ben did well, it seemed, and then there were times when he really didn't. He never liked to take medication. He really didn't like the side effects. So that was a struggle, because when he didn't take medication, his symptoms got worse. Ben had a trailer that he had at our house, and then he would eat his meals with us. But it was his own space, and we had rules that you can't do drugs. But then we'd find out he was doing drugs, or you could tell that he'd been doing drugs. And so we told him he couldn't come stay with us unless he went through drug treatment. He did several times, but every time he'd walk away. Sometimes it felt like the more we did, the less help he got. It's like as long as we were taking care of him, then he didn't get the help that he needed.
It was difficult to let go of him and not be able to meet his needs, and not be able to guide him anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. A couple weeks after Ben passed, I was in contact with the people at the drop-in center, and they said they wanted to have a memorial service for Ben, and they'd like for us to come be part of that if we wanted to. And it was really wonderful to hear several different staff and volunteers relate the personal interactions they had with Ben. And I could tell that they really cared about Ben. And that meant so much to me to know that somebody out there cared about my son, who I was unable to care for in that way in that time. I guess it was really a fear of mine that my son was living alone, lost out there in a cold, cruel world. I was hoping he was finding something out there, but didn't really know the extent of it.
When Ben was here, he'd come visit us, so we knew that he was interacting and that they were accepting him. But I really didn't realize how much of a family he had developed, and people took the time to talk with him and get to know him.
There was a local artist that worked with these wooden bowls, and she had done one of our son Ben. I think she captured his personality real well, and it was very meaningful to have that memory of our son here.
You realize that the memorial for him, but there were 11 bowls. It wasn't just one. And you realize that they're all sisters or brothers or sons and daughters. And that really struck me, that there were that many that had come here within the last year that had passed, and thinking that there was someone there for them and that they mattered.
I know it's easy when you see somebody on the street who's rather disheveled looking and maybe dirty clothes and messy hair, but that person is just like you. They have hopes and dreams and needs and wants, and they're a child of God. I'm so grateful for this ministry being here. This is really an outreach to people on the street and members of our family, members of other people's families. It's an invaluable service that's performed here. I certainly support it and appreciate the touch from God that goes through these people's lives, helping out, changing people's lives for the better.